Hey YouTube, this is Mike, and I just wanted to share a short little snippet from this episode that I really enjoyed. However, if you want to listen to the full episode, either scroll down this post or head to mikejamesreid.com/podcast for the full episode. Thanks and enjoy.
This is a whole nother podcast, but my parents were very poor when they were kind of starting out in life themselves. And, you know, my dad kind of like collected cardboard on the street to eat, you know, it was that kind of poverty back there. And so he built himself from that, you know, worked at IBM and, you know, basically he worked for the electricity company in Brazil for many, many, many years. So, you know, they were kind of self-made people. They obviously got out of poverty through education. So for them, that was a very important thing. And that's why they wanted to give us, you know, every opportunity and every ability to do whatever it is that we wanted with our lives. But they weren't the kinds of parents that were like, okay, just go and do whatever you think, you know. And so, because, you know, teenagers, they probably have different thoughts about what they want to do, you know, with their life other than party and whatever else. And I was never really a really party girl, but it was just, you know, for them, it was something that they just wanted me back to go to uni. So anyway, I went back to Brazil against my every wish and every, you know, hair and bone in my body. I literally arrived. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm back in this place. I hate it. I want to get out of here as soon as possible. So I spent the year at school really trying to kind of integrate myself back into the mentality of Brazilian culture, which is very different, you know, from pretty much everything else that I knew. And that didn't work. That really did not work. So at the end of that year, I basically, you know, I had a little boyfriend here and whatever. And I said to him, look, I really have to get out of here. Like, can you help me? You know? And so he said, yeah, okay.
Wow.
My parents were kind of a little bit shocked.
Almost like prison.
It was almost like prison. And prison break. This was prison break. And so then, you know, at 18, literally I just tell my parents, okay, guys, just letting you know, my flight is booked in for next week and I'm going back to Australia, you know. So my parents were a little bit shocked. They were a little bit outraged. My mom was like, oh my God, what? She literally didn't speak to me for 2 years after that. And, but then she got over it. And now we all see that it was the best decision that I ever made, you know, like it made me independent. It made me be able to do things for myself. It really just, you know, it was exactly what I needed. Like I felt settled in Australia. And that's really for me was the thing that I, you know, really wanted, above all else. So yeah, it was a good decision.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I never knew that story. So that's really wonderful context. Yeah. And I'm curious to know, like, how did that journey growing up, do you think, shape or how did your parents really influence you in business and as an entrepreneur? To what degree did that play a role?
Look, I think that it always, you know, what people go through always ends up influencing them and therefore the people that their lives touch, you know, and I think that my parents' upbringing, my parents growing up, my parents' stories and, you know, what happened for them growing up. And certainly my mom, like she came from, I guess, a background where, especially growing up in Brazil, you know, there was slaves at the time that they were growing up. So there were, you know, there was still all of that kind of, and maids and all of those kinds of things. And, you know, there were difficult circumstances in her life that basically had her develop this mindset that you never, like my grandmother went through, you know, like her husband basically cheated on her, left the family, you know, left her with 4 children to raise, you know, so it was a difficult kind of experience for, I think, everyone who was involved in that situation to live. And as a result, I think it really influenced my mom and her ideas of, you know, what is it that women have to do? So my grandmother's kind of mantra to my mom was, don't ever depend on a man, you know, like, be independent, have your own job, have your own career, have your own money. Like literally, you do not depend on a man. And I think that only just got strengthened with my mom, you know. It was like, it literally just got like condensed and even more focused because that I remember literally growing up as like a little girl, and having that, you know, kind of be my, you know, be independent, do your own thing. And so it's almost like my parents can't really blame me for leaving home at 18, right? And moving countries because that's what they raised me to do, to believe, to, focus on. So I think that has had a huge, huge impact on me. Like they always talked about me being successful and doing well in life and, working hard. And, so it's almost like I feel like I was pre-programmed for this, What
would you say is some of the collateral damage of that? Can you sort of think about some of the negative byproducts?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, so much. I literally have such high standards of myself, and in the beginning, I mean, now I've learned how to manage that and, turn the high standards that I have of myself into something positive that helps me to understand that, okay, I can always do better, but I'm not flawed because I haven't done better, and I think that growing up was, I think self-confidence was a big issue for me early on, like around that kind of 15 to say, I don't know, 20 something mark, where there's always this, and especially, when you are running a business, I started running a business literally from the age of 20. So, there's always that kind of little imposter syndrome thing going on, right? And especially after you've just graduated and you're telling everyone that, you're a fertility specialist at 20, there is this huge kind of amount of, I don't know, self-image, that needs to be kind of built around all of that and self-confidence that can be a little bit lacking, but also that comparison, of myself to myself, kind of knowing, okay, I have the potential to be so much better than what I am. And therefore, like, what's wrong with you kind of thing, right? So for me, it's always come back to that idea that I need to be better. I need to be better. And as a result of that, I mean, that has to, that has a positive and a negative, like everything. The positive is that obviously you then strive to be better and therefore you become better. The other is that you think you're never really good enough, right? It's never actually done, right? And I think that, now that I'm becoming older and wiser, hopefully, I started to see that for what it is, and I started to realize that actually I'm doing my best. And that's really what it comes down to, like it's about doing my best and I'm just doing that. And it's taken such a huge amount of pressure off me, to think that I'm not good enough versus I'm doing my best, So that's been a really, really great distinction.